Hi everybody, I'm Chrissy again. Welcome to this video. Is this pet or is this critter for you? Now, about 80% of the animals that we have here at Freedom Ranch are either discarded pets or they're native wildlife that were non-releasable. So we have a lot of questions about where can I get that as a pet. So I thought a video series about pets and which ones are good and which ones aren't so good and maybe which ones are illegal to have as a pet would be a great idea. So this is Captain Wentworth. He's a good friend of mine. He is one of our education rats because rats have a big purpose in this world, believe it or not. And we're going to talk about whether rats make good pets or not in this video. So let's go find out some more cool information. I feel like this is one of the most important videos that I can make. You see, when choosing a pet, I think it's not just a pet, it's a member of the family. So we need to choose wisely. And when we take these animals to programs, they're kind of irresistible. They like their job and they're good at their job, so it makes them seem like they would make terrific pets, when a lot of times they don't. And people will sometimes get these animals home and realize, oh my goodness, they take so much time and attention. I don't have the time for them, so I've got to rehome them. So what I'm trying to do with this video is try to figure out who would make the best next family member for you, the next commitment you would like to make. So let's discover some animals that may be a good choice for your family. Let's start with rats. Rats are the only exotic animal that I ever truly recommend as your next family member. There are lots of positives to rats, like they are affectionate, they're intelligent, they like to hang out with you, they're pretty clean, they clean each other and they clean themselves a lot. Now there are some negatives to rats. They need a pretty big space to have enough room. Ours are in a bird cage with bar spacing close enough where they can't squeeze out of. You do need to get at least 2. That way they're not lonely when you're not around. And be sure you just get boys or girls or you'll have lots of rat babies. They do get sick sometimes, so you do need to have a vet that will see rats. And the only other negative about rats is the fact that they only live 2, maybe 3 years. So just when you're really attached, they go to heaven. Usually they die of cancer. But rats are pretty awesome creatures, and I would recommend rats. But be sure you do a lot more research. The chinchilla, most known for their soft coat. Well, that's a negative for them because their coats are so thick, you cannot keep them outside. They have to be in an air-conditioned house. They're also very social, so you cannot just have one. They will get depressed. They need a dust bath, they need proper food, and they need a lot of space to live in. Now, Harvey was left in a house when someone moved out. They just kind of left him, bless his heart. So that's why he's by himself, because it's too risky to get another chinchilla at this point. They may not get along. But Harvey gets to run at our facility every day, and he socializes with our prairie dog and all of our mini house rabbits, and he loves it. So the downside to chinchillas is the fact that they need a lot of space and a lot of exercise, and they're not really as cuddly as you would want them to be. Oh, rabbits, they're fantastic, but they really don't make good pets. A lot of people think rabbits are cuddly. They're not cuddly. They have the personality of a cat. You know how some cats really like to be loved and other cats don't even like to be looked at half the time? Cats are great, but that's just a cat. Well, that's how rabbits are too. So a lot of times people buy rabbits on a whim because they're so cute, and then they get them home and realize "Oh, I don't have enough time for this rabbit." Rabbits are not happy alone. They don't like to live in a hutch on wire cage. They like to live in your house, out and about, roaming, or in a very big space like we have with our Patagonian cavies. Rabbits also need very special food that a lot of pet stores don't carry. They need Timothy hay based pellets, and a lot of pet stores don't carry that. And they need a lot of Timothy hay and special greens and vegetables. So please do your research before you get a rabbit. The rabbit is the last animal I would ever recommend as a pet. Mice! Aren't they fantastic? Well, I think so, but most people don't. And most people are surprised when I would recommend mice as a family pet. Now, if you want an animal that's going to cuddle with you, definitely not the choice. They don't like to cuddle. They're prey animals, so they don't like to be out in the open like that. But they are fun to watch, especially just after you clean them. Now, these two pairs just had their aquariums changed, and there's fresh substrate, there's fresh tissues and paper towels to make a nest. Of course, their wheel is back in there, and they are so happy to explore. They're active. I like to describe having mice as having a furry fishbowl because they're just as active, if not more active, than a fish aquarium. These guys are fun. But if you don't like stinkiness, and if you don't like to clean something at least once a week, this is not the animal for you. And of course, you have to have more than one. We have 2 boys and 2 girls, completely separated because we don't want 1,000 little mice. 4 are enough. And they're fantastic little pets. I know we have some reptile lovers out there, and I would definitely recommend bearded dragons. They're wonderful little lizards. They like to be around you, they like to be petted, and they're fairly easy to take care of. But you need to make sure you have a veterinarian that is familiar with their medical needs, because sometimes they can get sick and it can be a little tricky to treat them. We have 2 bearded dragons. They were donated pets, so someone did not have time for them anymore. We have Falcor. This is Falcor in the video now. And we have Sandy, and Sandy's coming up in just a minute. Their diet can be a little bit more complicated. These guys need collard greens, squash, especially butternut squash. That's what they love. And then the insects get a little bit more complicated because they like live insects. They like dubia roaches, and those are really good for them. They also like super worms, and they love crickets. So if you do not want to have to cut up salad at least once a week and shred up butternut squash, and if you don't like to have live insects in your house, then this is not the next family member for you. Definitely not. They require all those special food items. Now, bearded dragons live about 10 years if you're lucky, and they need special lighting. If they do not have the special lighting, they'll get metabolic bone disease and they'll require a lot of vet care. But they need lighting with UVB and UVA rays, and those bulbs can get quite expensive. So the initial setup for a bearded dragon can be quite expensive. So do your research and make sure you're prepared for that. And that lighting has to be replaced about once a year. They do enjoy spending time with you. They like to be petted, and sometimes they like to kind of act like Velcro and attach themselves to your shirt. But just always keep your hand up there just in case, because they have a fear of falling. And also, they can only be housed 1 lizard in a tank, because they've been known to eat legs and toes off of each other. Parrots. My first love in the bird world when I was a kid. So if you like biting, screaming, basically a 3-year-old that stays a 3-year-old for about 70 to 80 years, then absolutely a parrot is for you. I would definitely never recommend a parrot as a pet. Not only do they bite to communicate sometimes, they scream to communicate, and they need a lot of time and attention outside of their house. They're a huge responsibility. It is like having a 3 to 4-year-old in your house for many, many years. They never grow up. I think they're a joy, but I would never recommend them as a pet. Do we have any creepy crawly fans? How about some millipedes? I have fallen in love with this species. Now, right here on your screen is an ivory millipede, absolutely beautiful. And millipedes, for the right person, can make excellent pets. Now, they are kind of easy to care for. They do like to be handled once they get used to it. They can't really hurt you. Their main defense mechanism is to ooze an orange substance onto your skin, and it's supposed to burn, but it's never burned me. And our millipedes are so used to being handled now, they never do that. They actually like to get out and about. They're fairly easy to care for. They need thick substrate you can get at a pet store, and then you feed them fruits and vegetables and maybe some romaine lettuce. They really love butternut squash and apple. I don't really have any negatives for this animal, except you have to be very gentle when you do handle them. If you drop them, it can damage their exoskeleton, and the next time they molt, they won't be able to molt and they'll die. So you may want to be careful if you have really small children. They probably shouldn't handle the millipede because they can crawl right out of your hand. They're also fun to watch. I would do research on which ones like to stay on the surface of the substrate, because there's a lot of millipedes that will go under the substrate, and that's where they stay most of the time. This is their simple setup that they have at Freedom Ranch. Now, because people have fallen in love with our owls and especially our fish crow hitch in our programs, they want one as a pet. Well, you can't have them as a pet. It's illegal here in the United States. Freedom Ranch is permitted by the United States Fish and Wildlife Services to house each native bird that we have and to use them for educational purposes. We would never want to go out and catch a wild bird and keep it in captivity. The only reason we have these guys is because they're deemed unreleasable, so they wouldn't make a good pet. Now, there are some animals that look like it would be a great idea to invite them into your house, but really and truly, they're going to be a lot of trouble. Like a lot of our rodents, prairie dogs, Patagonian cavies, the porcupine, everybody thinks they would be adorable to have, but these guys are in the exotic animal trade. And for the most part, once you get them home, they're going to chew on things. They're going to dig out of places that you put them. They need a special diet and exercise. They have sharp teeth. They can bite. So it's really not a great idea to have exotic animals as pets. Well, we've come to the end of another video. Thanks for watching, and come see us at Freedom Ranch or book us for your next event.